Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hello guys, in this video I'm going to tell you about the story of the novel I Want to Eat Your Pancreas, or the Japanese title is Kimi no Suizou wo Tabetai. So, it is a novel by Yoru Sumino sensei. Oh yeah, I almost forgot. I just want to confirm to you guys that after I finished reviewing all of this novel, yesterday I tried to watch the anime and live action film, and the story is almost exactly the same as in the novel, but there is also some plot change too. Okay then, I think you're already bored with me, so to shorten the time, let's begin. The first meeting of Haruki and Sakura all began when Haruki took a break from school to the hospital. While he was sitting in the hospital waiting room, suddenly he noticed there is a book that is lying on the seat, and it seems to have been left behind. Because of his curiosity, he took the book. The words on the cover read Disease Coexistence Journal. He opens the book and reads the first page, and evidently the book belongs to someone who has a major illness. Afterward, he was greeted by Sakura, who tells him that she is the owner of the book. She is grateful that Haruki found her book, and she told him that she was afraid that she lose it. Eventually, Sakura told him about her pancreatic disease and asked him if he was shocked. But Haruki's reply is surprising because he just gives her a plain answer and leaves. Because of that, Sakura decides that she wants to become a friend with Haruki. The next day, they decide to hang out. Sakura invites Haruki to eat yakiniku with her. While there, she talked about the superstition of the soul of someone that was eaten someone else's organ. They will continue to live on the inside of the one that ate them. The next day at school, they have exams. But even though that case isn't the focus of everyone's discussion. Instead, their classmates were so curious about the relationship between Sakura and Haruki. Then, when the test was over, when Haruki wanted to get home, Sakura called him to eat with her again. When Sakura and Haruki were in the restaurant, Sakura's best friend, Kyoko, who was there, suddenly saw them and asked Sakura about what relationship they have. Sakura said that she was getting along with Haruki. But Kyoko assumed that Haruki and Sakura were on a date. A few days later, Haruki received a message from Sakura, and she asked him to go with her on a trip by train. The next day, he headed to their meeting place early in the morning and already found her waiting there. She planned to go on a trip with him for a few days. Then, after arriving, they decided to visit the siren to make the wishes of the god and draw their fortunes. Haruki made a wish to the god to heal her pancreas. Afterward, they left the siren and headed towards the city and looked for a hotel. At the hotel, she had some trouble with checking because the receptionist said there was no room left for her request. However, the receptionist suggests that she book into the same room, albeit a higher class one, as compensation. When she finished booking the room, Sakura tried to explain the situation to Haruki, and she said that they had to share the room. Haruki was shocked, but he ended up sharing the same room with her. In the room, Sakura said that she brought drinks, but after taking a sip, Haruki realized it was alcohol. While drinking, Sakura pursued Haruki to play a card game similar to Truth or Dare. With heroin twice, she asked Haruki about who was the cutest person in their class, in his opinion, and she also asked how high her rate was between the girls in their class. While playing the game, Haruki won 5 straight victories, and he gave her 5 rounds of questions since she chose the truth. In the last round, Sakura won. She asked him what he chose between truth or dare. If he chose the truth, what if she said that she was really afraid of dying? What would he do about it? But if he chose to dare, she asked him to sleep on the bed too, no objection. Haruki was frustrated over the choice he had to take, but then he decided to sleep beside her with great disdain. In that morning, Kyoko called Sakura and asked where she was. Patiently, she asked Kyoko to understand and waited for her to explain all to her. She even asked her to just let this matter go and keep it for herself. On Monday, when Haruki went to school, he was bullied by his classmates. Although still being bullied, Haruki didn't care about it. From that day on, he didn't receive any contact from Sakura. However, in a few days on the last day of school before summer vacation, he could talk with her because they had been asked to help with some work by the teacher in charge of the library. While in the library, they talked as usual, and suddenly she offered him a book, The Little Prince by Saint-Exupéry. She said she would lend him the book if Haruki was willing to come over to her place to get it. In her room, they played many games such as Sogi and PlayStation. After finishing the games, he asked her to lend him the book. But Sakura was still not giving him the book, and instead, she tried to tease him. Being teased with her, it was the first time he felt seriously angered at her. He didn't understand the reason and wondered why she did that. But as soon as he saw her face that wanted to cry, her temper began to dissipate. He regrets what he did. Then he took the book, said sorry to her, and decided to go home. On his way home, Takahiro, Sakura's ex-boyfriend, called out to him, and he seems to be in a bad mood. He asked Haruki why Sakura had to be together with someone like him. Although Haruki tried to explain the truth, it seems useless since he didn't believe, and suddenly Takahiro punched him. After receiving the punch, he lost his balance and fell to the ground. Sakura, who had come chasing Haruki, was shocked, and she rushed to Haruki's side to help him. Then, she turned Takahiro and left. Afterward, Haruki was pulled to her house to treat the wound. From there, they finally decided to make up and apologize to each other. The next day, Sakura hadn't come to school for several days because she had been hospitalized. Notwithstanding, Haruki has always come to the hospital to visit her. She had asked him to compel the materialist dog and tutor her. Before he went home, she asked him to look at her magic trick. On Monday, he headed to school and found out that an extremely outrageous rumor about him had swept through the classroom. On his second visit on Tuesday, he told her about the matter of how the class thought he was stalking her. The next day, when he visited her on Sunday morning, he felt the slight sense of unease of her smile. He could feel that something was up, but he thought it was just him that was overthinking her. Besides, he asked her what life means to her. Listening to her words, he thanked her because she had really been teaching him a lot of things. Hearing his praise, she accepted it by giving him a warm hug. A few months later, they were interrupted by Kyoko, who suddenly entered the room and was angered upon seeing them hugging. Sakura then distracts Kyoko by hugging her tightly, making sure Haruki got to escape without being confronted by Kyoko. Shortly, the duration of her hospitalization had been extended 2 weeks longer than planned. When he came to the hospital, he confessed his worries about her and that he wanted her to leave. Afterward, they gave each other a warm hug. Then she promised to go to the beach with him once she is discharged. They planned to meet at the cafe and she would perform the magic trick she was still in the midst of practicing. On the day she was to be discharged, Haruki arrived at the cafe where they had agreed to meet and waited for her. After a while, he received a text from her who apologized for being a little late because she just went home. In short, they exchanged the message, which turned out to be similar to a small conversation. In the text, she asked him to give her a compliment as a punishment because he made a mean joke to her. While considering and contemplating what compliment suits her, he typed, "I want to eat your pancreas," and sent the message to her. A moment later, she didn't respond to the message and didn't arrive either. Feeling worried and confused, he decided to return home. However, when he had dinner with his family and watched the news, it turned out that the content of the news was about Sakura's death. It was confirmed that she was the victim of a homicide. She had been discovered stabbed in the chest and lying unconscious on the ground. An ambulance had been called to take her away immediately to the hospital, but despite attempts to rescue her, she had breathed her last. Being this devastated, even after her funeral, he hasn't gone to her house yet. In the end, he needed almost 10 days to find his courage and a reason to go to her house. When he was at her house, he met with Sakura's mom. He said there was something that he borrowed from her and he wants to return it. So he returned the Little Prince book and handed it over to her mom. Then he told her about the truth that he knew about Sakura's illness. Having told her mother about the truth, he also asked her about Sakura's diary. Her mother then recognized him as the person that Sakura mentioned to retrieve her diary. A few moments later, she gives him the book Disease Coexistence Journal. She told him that Sakura wanted her diary to be passed to a certain person after she died. The one and the only person who knew about her illness, and that person also knew about the diary. Eventually, he began to read the book. Having finished reading her diary, then he asked her mother if he could take a look at Sakura's phone. When her mom gave the phone to him, he quickly checked the message Sakura had received. And he realized that she had already seen his message of "I want to eat your pancreas." He felt glad that it turned out that the final message he had for her already reached her. Thereafter, he cried in front of her mother. He cried because he was happy that his message had reached her. But at the same time, he was in unimaginable pain because she was no longer here. After that, he thanked her mother, who said that he could take her diary home. The next day, he invited Kyoko over to the cafe where he was waiting for Sakura on that day, the day she died. In the cafe, he talked to Kyoko about Sakura and her disease. She got angry with him for not telling her, to which he handed her Sakura's diary, causing her to cry after reading it. Afterward, he asked her to become his friend. 1 year later, Haruki and Kyoko went to visit Sakura's grave together. It was hinting that they finally met up with each other and become friends. On the way to her grave, they rested for a while. He was wondering how far it would be for them to get there. But before he knew it, they had arrived at their destination. At her grave, they were standing side by side and closing their eyes, wishing that their prayers would properly reach her. Then they set down the various offerings they had each brought along. After that, they decided to visit Sakura's home to see her family. While they were on the way back from her grave, Haruki once again prayed and confessed to her about the life he was living now. He felt very grateful for what had happened in his life, and while going to Sakura's house, they both smiled and laughed while the wind caressed their face. Okay guys, I think that's all I can say. More or less, thank you. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. See you guys in the next video. Bye.